What I am into is this situation in the Pac-12. You heard, obviously, that the Pac-12, meaning the two remaining members, Washington State and Oregon State, announced a football scheduling alliance with the Mountain West Conference that is, or it's close. And this alliance would have Oregon State and Washington State become a scheduling partner, which means the Mountain West teams would play 7 conference games and then 1 each against Oregon State and Washington State. Notably, football only. So it's not a basketball partnership. It is a football-only partnership. Now, on this show, we have been telling you for months that Washington State and Oregon State, as well as the Mountain West, had framework in place for a deal just like this. And the moment that the court in Washington State ruled in favor of Oregon State and Washington State, it was very quick that Oregon State and Washington State made this deal with the Mountain West. Now, it is not official. I think it's everything but official. But there's also new news today, and that is that the Washington State Supreme Court has stayed that lower court ruling in Washington, giving full control of the Pac-12 to Oregon State and Washington State, which is only going to further damage Oregon State and Washington State. And what is now going to happen is status quo in the Pac-12. There will be no rulings. There will be no board meetings. They will simply wait for a full review of the lower court's ruling by the Supreme Court of the state of Washington. They have to submit legal briefs by the 28th, so they've got about 2 weeks to do that, and then we should get a ruling from the Washington State Supreme Court. But I think this is incredibly damaging. On this piece of news, Jake, is it a good agreement for Washington State and Oregon State to make with the Mountain West?
I think, yeah, it's absolutely a good agreement. I think geographically speaking, it's ideal. You want nothing to do with having to travel, to the East Coast, certainly, or even the South. I think that, if you're Washington State and Oregon State, you don't want to be constantly looking at travel to, Texas, Georgia, Alabama, the Southeast portion of the country where travel is longer and you've got more costs involved in that, because the reality is that your revenue is going down as a program and as an institution. And to me, I look at this and I say, great, let's keep this thing in the Pacific time zone for the most part, couple of mountain time zone schools, but overall we're on the western portion of the country so we can maximize efficiency. And I think ultimately, the raging debate is, hey, we're being pigeonholed into a bad position in terms of, just how successful we could be come playoff time in college football. And I think that because you're keeping your scheduling alliance west, you're going to keep your players fresher. You're going to be able to keep some sense of normalcy with how you would normally run things. So I actually think that this scheduling alliance couldn't have worked out better, because if you were going to be put in this position, you obviously want to have a good contingency plan. And that's exactly what this is. I'm a firm believer that Oregon State can still get done what they want to get done as a football program. You can still get to where you want to go. I don't understand, much like with the Michigan thing, I don't understand why specifically Oregon State fan is so up in arms about the position you are in. Because now that you got that ruling the other day in court, and now that this is being staged, you're in a position where you can start moving forward. Now, will that change if the Supreme Court changes, the decision, and now the Pac-10's in control, let's say, or the 10 who left are in control? Who the hell knows? But as of right now, you're in a good spot. You're in the spot you wanted to be. And I just hope people realize that this is a lot different than, hey, we just got to sit on our hands and wait. We can't do anything. We're just kind of frozen in time.
Yeah, I think fans tend to be fanatics. Like, I think if you take your emotion out of this situation, Oregon State is a really good athletic program. I think the world of Scott Barnes. I knew him when he was here at Utah State. I think he's done a really good job representing Oregon State. And I think when you look at Oregon State and their body of work, I think that if you can make this alliance and find a way, because again, I think the thing that's really important here, and I don't mean to undersell the lead, I think one of the other big stories here is the College Football Playoff Committee removed the Pac-12 automatic qualifier this week very quietly. And we told you that they had been considering this. Our sources had told us that the College Football Playoff Committee had been talking about this at every meeting. We told you yesterday, our sources told us the Division I Board of Directors was fully briefed on this. And then what happened 3 hours after we told you that? A report came out. They were fully briefed on this. They're not just going to let the Pac-12 sit here as a two-team league and all of a sudden have an automatic qualifier to the college football playoff. So as you see, they removed the automatic qualifier beginning in 24-25 and essentially put a rule in place that says to be an automatic qualifier, your league must have at least 8 members. I think that is a very difficult pill for Oregon State and Washington State fans to swallow. But this football scheduling alliance for the next 2 seasons gives you a little room to breathe in football. And I think you're Oregon State. You're a quality program. You're not in financial distress the way Washington State is. You don't have budget deficits and lawsuits and staff revolts the way that Washington State does. I think you're just in a position where you've got to bite the bullet for a while. And
you've shown that you can beat the big boys.
Yes.
You've shown that you can compete with, I mean, hell, you can compete with Oregon on a football field. I'm not saying you're going to beat them regularly, but you've absolutely been, like, look at last year. You are absolutely the reason Utah went to the Pac-12 championship game.
Yes.
Because you beat Oregon somehow, some way.
You have a beautiful, renovated, brand new research stadium. I mean, you have a great football coach in Jonathan Smith who's recruited well, and above anything else, he's done a great job of developing talent and using the transfer portal to beef up the talent and the roster. And really it is obviously with the quarterback position at Oregon State, but the bottom quarter of that roster at Oregon State has gotten so much better just through better development. That's the part that I think a lot of people don't want to talk about. And I understand that Uyunglele has been unbelievable for them, as Cam Ward has been at Washington State. But you look at specifically Oregon State, this is not a death knell. The College Football Playoff Committee may have removed that automatic qualifier, but what have they said? Oregon State and Washington State are fully eligible for an at-large bid. Welcome to BYU country, man. You are an independent playing Mountain West teams. If you really are who you say you are, go and run through the Mountain West, win 95% of your games, and you've got to find a way to schedule up out of conference for the next 2 years. That's your path to the college football playoff. And I remind you, it is now 12 teams. It's not 4 teams after this season. It's 12 teams. So your opportunity is there. This isn't a death knell. Take a breath, relax a little bit. You know what I'm saying? That's the hardest part for fans. All right, Alema Harrington joins us every week on the show. We talk a little bit of college football. We talk a lot of NBA. Alema, just off the top of your head, your thoughts on Oregon State as a football program?
I think they're great. I think they're one of those programs that has proven that they can compete. They have ups and downs just like everybody else. And the landscape will continue to evolve and change. And I think to your point, Monty, where you're saying that fans are fanatics, that's where the root of that word comes from. And so whether you're an Oregon State fan or a BYU fan or Oregon fan or it doesn't matter. When it has to do with your team, you're going to be at the extreme and you're going to be up in arms. Yeah. And I think that in the end, this will end up playing well for Oregon State because they have a proven track record. They're a team that has a strong history and historically has been a team that's competitive. And so if you can do that, then you're going to be okay. You write your own ticket that way.
But the hard part about this conversation, Alema, is I'm still not over the fact that a year from now, the Pac-12 doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. That is I like this. It feels like we try so hard to build these special things. And I felt like the Pac-12 was this special thing. I am still shell-shocked that this conference is going away. I don't know what you think. I mean, you know as much about football as anybody. I like, how surprised are you that we are even in this situation?
Well, it blows my mind. And even though I don't know how many weeks, months removed from the whole decision. And it's really only, 6 to 10 weeks. I'm not even sure how long it's been. Right.
Yeah.
And but we're still shocked that a powerhouse league like the Pac-12, the League of Champions, right? This is supposed to be one of those that it's a standard, and it's gone. I think what it does do is that it makes you pay attention for all of the other conferences out there. It makes you pay attention to who is in your leadership, and that poor leadership can sink you, even if you have 100-year history, can sink you in a heartbeat. And so you're more vigilant about who is in charge, and that the people in charge understand the playing field, and the playing field is television deals. The playing field is all about what that looks like. I still, at times will watch, flipping around and watch the Pac-12 Network, and I'm like, are you kidding me? This is the Pac-12 Network? This is the Pac-12 Network? I mean, it looks so bad that I can't even fathom that they thought to themselves, hey, this is a fantastic product. We're going to put this on the air. Yeah. I mean, the SEC on ESPN, I mean, that's a whole different deal, obviously. And they have the power of ESPN behind them. But that's what can happen. That is what can hapen. BYU TV, who is being run out of Brigham Young University, and granted, there's a lot behind it, and there's a lot of people that care about BYU TV. I was part of the launch of BYU TV when that happened. Looks 100% better than the Pac-12 Network.
It's not even it's not even close.
Right? It's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild to me. Alema Harrington, presented by TridayTrading.com. Alema, speaking of BYU, I am a Kalani Sitake guy. Like, I am 100%. I'm all in. I think it is ridiculous that there is part of the BYU nation, if you will, that is talking about replacing Kalani Sitake. I get it. This is not the finish that people had hoped for. But I think you have whatever your opinions are on the quarterback situation. This is a better football team today that I think than any point last year. I think Kalani Sitake is the exact right guy for this job. He had other opportunities, most notably Washington. Every time I speak to Kalani Sitake about BYU, I see the twinkle in his eye. I see the passion. I see the emotion. Is there any credence? Is there any reason to talk about making a coaching change at BYU football?
No, I mean, it's ludicrous. That to me is ridiculous. Kalani has gotten you to the point where you are, along with Tom Homo and the athletics director and their offices, and they play obviously a huge role. But Kalani has put you in a position to be in the Big 12. And so you don't look at it, and once you get there, understanding the people that are most frustrated with what is going on the football field right now are the people that didn't think that this was going to happen. We had conversations at the beginning of the year going into the Big 12. We talked about it on your show. It's like, you're going to take your lumps here. That's just a given. And so that doesn't take away from the fact that that was an embarrassing loss for BYU fan. Like, that was hard to watch. And so I have some compassion for BYU, because I am a BYU fan. I'm also an alum, and I'm also a former player. But I understand that moving into this realm, right, it's different, and you're going to have some growing pains. That's just a given. And so you don't fire everybody because you got there and now we're not ready. Like, it's just, you're ready as you can be. There's only a certain level of readiness going into this, having come from the years of independence. And trust me, there certainly were years in independence where BYU had a better team. They had better quarterbacks. Obviously, there's 3 of them playing in the NFL right now. So it's different in some regards, and that's the ebb and flow, and that's the cyclical nature of college football. But to look at this and say, no, I don't think Kalani's the guy. That to me is crazy. Like
Yeah, I think
Kalani Sitake is the guy, and I would say I can't see the future, at least the near future, without Kalani Sitake at the helm. And this is a guy that's still very young and can coach well into the next decade plus.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I he's just such a great representative of the institution, and I think that matters. One of the other things that I think is so important, though, is you're also a high school football guy. Do you worry about participation rates? Do you worry about the level of participation at the youth level? Because I think one of the things that we're seeing is here in the state of Utah, for those of you who don't know, like Utah had been this Alema hit like a hidden gem of football. And now that's not really the case anymore because everybody knows how great the youth level football is here. But I also think there's a lot of corners of this country where we're seeing drop in participation rate in football. You cover high school football, you do the championship games. Like, do you worry about participation rates in youth football?
I've got two kids, my two youngest sons, 10 and 11, Gabriel and Isaac. They're playing the U Conference, which is basically, if you're watching across the country, Pop Warner Little League football. And the participation is strong. And it depends. There are different communities that the participation might be down, but the love for football, I think, in our country is still very high. And they are doing a great job, certainly in the youth conference that I have firsthand knowledge with, in making sure that they teach the game properly. And because there's so many things that are different now, games or plays, I should say, that used to be celebrated back when I was playing are plays that will get you kicked out of the game now. So you've got to teach kids a different way to hit, and it's for the kids' safety, and equipment's better. There's a lot of things that in my opinion are trending in the right direction. Here's, I think, what's going to be the issue is that if we continue at the trajectory that we're going now with NIL and with the SEC and the Big Ten continuing to get richer and richer and richer and richer, and you have the other conferences, even ones that are part of the Big Five, that are going to be edged out, meaning the ACC or the Big 12. We saw the Pac-12 basically dissolve. If that continues, then there's going to be fewer opportunities for scholarships for young men to go and play football. And that to me will be the biggest problem on the horizon, is that there's not going to be as many opportunities for those kinds of, educational opportunities for people in the country. And if that happens and it's no longer, people play obviously for the love of the game. But if you talk to any high school kid, and I talk to a lot of them because I cover the high school, championships and games every week, everybody wants to get a college. Like, I want a D1 scholarship. That's my goal. And if you take that away and you only have two conferences that are really the ones holding the bag, then man, that part more than anything scares me about the direction that we're going right now. I mean, really, and again, my kids are 10 and 11. By the time that they're getting out of high school, where are we going to be, 7 years from now? It frightens me.
Well, and I mean, that's why I think there's a lot of credence in getting to TryDayTrading.com/Monty right now and signing up for a 30-day trial membership that costs you a $10 charitable donation. To me, that seems like the alternative.
One of the things that I think is really, here's a great transition, right, is sometimes you're thinking, I wonder what I could do for my young son, whether he's graduating high school or my daughter who's graduating high school, and what could I give them that would really mean something to them? Well, a Tri-Day trading opportunity, like to expose them to that at that age, right, is such it's brilliant. It's like really giving them something that can serve them for the rest of their lives. And if you educate them on how to do this, you get them involved with Tri-Day trading, they're going to have the coaching, they're going to have the proprietary software, they're going to have the understanding of what the markets do. And here's one of the things that people might get lost on. People think, well, the stock market, I don't know, the stock market hasn't been good or whatever. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether the stock market is going up or down. With day trading, you are getting in and out, sometimes within minutes or hours. So it's not, you're looking for volatility. So you don't have to worry about whether the stock market is up or down. You can make money buying or selling either way. But if you can give that opportunity to one of your kids and say, even if it's by example, you know what, Dad's gonna get involved in this day trading with day trading, and they watch you, and you've seen it happen, Monty, in your house as your wife is going through it, and you're kind of just looking over the shoulder. It's like, okay, well, okay, but if our kids can watch us do this, they're like, man, Dad can do this, and Dad showed me how, and sign me up for an account, because the beauty of it is you get into the program, right? 30-day trial, $10 donation, and you find out that you like it, and within 30 days you're gonna be able to figure that out. And
I think within a week you figure it out, because it's
you figure it out.
Yeah, the adrenaline you get from it, and the thing that you talk about a lot that I think I've seen so much with my wife, the coaching and the lifestyle that the coach embraces.
Yeah,
that hey, people are doing it as a side hustle, or it's their whole deal, or they teach you how to integrate it into your life, so that you understand, hey, the Australian market's here. And like, I just think it's so incredible the way that it fits for everybody.
Yeah. If you're looking, so we're looking at Australia, or we're looking at Japan, or we're trading the euro, right? There's ways that you can do it. And again, it comes back to the personality. Like what works for you? What time of the day works for you? Those are all the things that your coach is going to take into consideration as they're tailoring a program for you. And then what they do, as they get you ready, they're going to fund an account for you, right? So you're trading using their money, and you keep up to 80% of the profits. Like, I can't think of a better deal. I keep on trying to think of like, what could be, I can't think of a better, I just can't. So and I think you add to it what we were just talking about moments ago. Even if it's just by example, you're showing your kids like, hey, it's not always got to be a 9 to 5, and this could be your education. Like, instead of going to college, or while you're going to college, you can do this. Like there are college students that are doing this. In fact, if you go to the website, trydaytrading.com, testimonials all over the place, right?
Yeah.
And there's people from all walks of life. I promise you, if you go there and you start looking, you're going to go, man, that person's like me, and they did it. That means that I can do it. And that's really how you get started with this thing, is just to pique your interest, get to the website, watch a couple of videos, read the different testimonials, and you're in.
Yep. And by the way, it's also a great confidence booster. If you're somebody that struggles with, the confidence or a feeling, of self-worth.
Yeah.
Once you get into this program, it just really builds your self-esteem up, because you learn quickly. It's not hard to learn, and you see success right away, even in your early simulations that you're learning at Tri-Day Trading. Like you just feel confidence. I think it's amazing. TriDayTrading.com always presents Alema Harrington on the Monty Show. Alema, always good to see you, my friend. Thanks for your insights.
Thank you. Don't forget, we got another in-season tournament game coming up tomorrow.
How do you like the floor? I kind of like. I got to tell you, I don't love the purple mountain jersey. I really am a sucker for the old purple. I'm in love with that floor, though, man. I love the Jazz purple floor.
Well, this season is perfect for you, because we have the classic jersey, which is the purple, throwback to the New Orleans days, and we also have the in-season tournament jersey with that floor. And I love the purple. Purple is one of my favorite colors. And I wore a purple suit the other night, and I don't know what I'll wear tomorrow. I'm going straight from high school championships over to the Jazz game, so it'll be a busy day. But that's you guys know, because we're in this world, right? We love sports, and we love when sports overlap. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. You always look good, though, man. You're one of the sharpest dressers in TV.
I got a guy. If you need a suit, either one of you need a suit, let me know. I got a guy. Get you down to Mr. Mac.
You do. That's awesome. Alema, we'll talk to you next week. Appreciate you, man.
All right, guys. Thank you.
There you go. Alema Harrington, who you guys, I can't say it enough. He got me. You talk about things like Tri-Day Trading or whatever that, like you hear about this stuff. He pushed me over the line. He said to me on the show one day, it is rewarding. And if you don't know what he said, if you don't know by the end of 30 days, you're probably not going to know. I said to myself, what are we waiting for? My wife got in the program, and trust me when I tell you, he was exactly right. It is the Tri-Day Trading program it's an addiction. I cannot wait. In 2 hours, I will be at home looking at the Australian dollar versus the Japanese yen, and I'll be making money on it because I just love it. My wife this morning, you know, the thing that's really cool, and I don't mean to gush about my wife or whatever, but the thing that's really cool is my wife has a big wig job. She has like a big job in tech. She's a big deal. She was texting me this morning while I was at the driving range. And she's like, oh, hey, I just made this trade. I won on this trade, like working on this new process, like just really excited about her personal development. And it makes you feel good as when your best friend's telling you, hey, this makes me feel really good. I'm really confident. I'm building my money in my account, like building, like it's rewarding. It's self-growth. And I promise you that 30-day, $10 trial membership will change your life. I'm not exaggerating. I'm not bloviating. Yes, they're a partner on the show. That 30-day, $10 trial membership at Tri-Day Trading will change your life.
It's different when you're doing it, bro.
It is unbelievable. Ooh, breaking news, by the way. Shohei Ohtani, not surprising. Shohei Ohtani has won the American League MVP.
I'm for real.
The soon not to be Chicago Cub has just won the AL not to be.
I'm not playing your games.
Please take the hook. Shohei Ohtani has won the American League MVP. So there you have it. Let's reset the situation. Thanks to our friends at Tri-Day Trading. I want to get into this Pac-2 situation. Where do you guys come down on that? Would love to hear from you on it. I am curious. When you look at this situation with the Pac-2, and here's what you need to know. I think the bigger story that you knew Washington and the other 9 members were going to appeal. I don't think that's a big deal at all. I think Oregon State, Washington State are going to win that situation. I think the much bigger deal is the story that we told you was coming. It is unbelievable to me that people are surprised by this. And you guys know that we work very hard on this show to have the right information and to be credible for you. We have been telling you there is no cash windfall coming. And now today, through Ross Dellinger and ESPN, we found out the College Football Playoff Committee, very quietly, last week, changed the regulations so that your conference must have 8 members in it to be an automatic qualifier. They did not need a unanimous vote to do so. And we've talked so much on this show about the role that Kirk Schultz will play in the college football playoff. And it was so sure, so many Pac-12 homers were just so sure that Kirk Schultz, the president at Washington State, who is on the College Football Playoff Committee, was going to be the Lone Ranger. Well, very quietly last week, with Kirk Schultz in attendance, the College Football Playoff Committee took that ability away from him while he was there. And it's something that I think is the exact right move for college football. I think this pipe dream and these conspiracy theories that somehow, some way, the Pac-12 is going to have $300 million and they're going to be joining the Big 12. It's not going to happen. If they were going to join the Big 12, would they have formed a scheduling alliance with the Mountain West? As we told you, they have been working on for 6 to 8 weeks. No, they would not have. They would be joining the Big 12. If they were going to get $320 million, and if they were going to have an automatic qualifier, and no matter what, as some have been saying, and we've told you from the get, this is not going to happen. If they were going to have a spot where every year Oregon State and Washington State were going to be in the college football playoff, there was no way that was happening. It makes no sense. The college football playoff is independent of the NCAA. They make their own rules. They do what they want to do. And last week, they said, Kurt Schultz, we're taking your power from you. And that's exactly what they did. Is it wrong? I don't know. Are they able to do that? Well, yeah, apparently, because that's exactly what they did. The idea that the Pac-12 was going to be given hundreds of millions of dollars and an automatic qualifier for one of their 2 members over the next 2 years to get into the college football playoff is absolutely ridiculous. And that reality has now come to fruition. And I can only tell you, this is just the beginning. Because even if the Pac-12 merges with the Mountain West sometime in the next 2 years, And I think it's going to be difficult. They now have a 2-year scheduling alliance in football. That does not mean that the Pac-12 is going to regain its automatic qualifier. Because as we've told you, point blank and straight away on this show, the Division I Board of Directors is keeping a very close eye. They are well aware they have been briefed at every turn about what is going on in the Pac-12. They will vote to take away their status in the Pac-12, one way or another. It's simply a matter of getting a ruling from the Washington State Supreme Court. If Oregon State and Washington State win that ruling, the Division I Board of Directors, I believe, will act. If they merge with the Mountain West after they win that ruling, the Division I Board of Directors will act. Because adding a G5 conference to your former P5 conference does not make you a P5 conference. And it's something that I think a lot of Pac-12 fans just don't understand. You don't have to like the rules, but you do have to abide by them. And Jake, I think this ruling that the College Football Playoff Committee made about taking the automatic qualifier from Washington State and Oregon State, I think it's absolutely just.
Yeah, it's just, and I think that, it's a natural progression. I think when a conference burns to the ground the way the Pac-12 did, the College Football Playoff Committee has to reevaluate the landscape because, frankly, that's their job. Their job is to make sure that they're producing the best process for deciding who a national champion is going to be. So if we're going to lose a power conference the way we lost the Pac-12, it only makes sense that we would accommodate a slide up the ladder, if you will. So 4 power 4 champs, obviously, and the highest ranked G5. That makes perfect sense to me. It's a natural progression. So yeah, the pipe dream of, this windfall of cash was just that, a pipe dream. And frankly, I'm a little tired of Oregon State fan and some Washington State fan, but more Oregon State fans saying you're in some terrible position and they left us for dead and everybody hates us. Nobody hates you, dude. You are in a position where you have access to the college football playoff. And frankly, that access got a little bit easier because now you're playing Mountain West competition. And yes, you're going to have to try to figure out how to improve your non-con slate. Absolutely. But ultimately, the point is that you can still get to where you want to go. You can still be one of those 7 at-large bids. If you look at the top 25 right now, you can beat a lot of those teams. I would venture to say, excluding the top 6 teams, you're probably in every single game of the other 6. So to me, I just think that you're fine. You're in a perfectly good spot here. And assuming that the Supreme Court in Washington upholds the decision that the lower level court made yesterday, assuming that takes place, you are going to be in the driver's seat to decide your destination, your end game, your destiny, if you will. So to me, yeah, I think this was just, I think it was proper. And yeah, well, I'm happy to pat us on the back too. We've been saying it for months. We've been saying it for, I don't know the exact amount of time, but a long ass time, that the 5-7 model was coming, that the Pac-12 was no longer going to be recognized as a power conference by the College Football Playoff Committee, and this windfall wasn't going to happen. So that's why I say all the hacks out there, all the people that, wanna poke the bear, which we'd be the bear and they'd be doing the poking, can ride off into the sunset now, right? Because ultimately, this was always going to happen, and we told you it was going to happen.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that, 3 different podcasts shouted out on Twitter, "Oh, are you guys nervous now?" Yeah, we told you. And then 12 hours later, what happened? Yeah, it turns out that things are not going so well when it comes to Oregon State and Washington State. And now you want more breaking news that you've heard here for almost 2 months. The Chicago Tribune is reporting Oregon State and Washington State are working on a plan to keep the Pac-12 alive as a 2-team conference for as long as 2 years. The schools would also enter an agreement with the Mountain West to fill out their sports schedules. But Jake, that can't be the case because Oregon State and Washington State are joining the Big 12.
Yeah, that's right. They're not. And by the way, I'd like to point out, I was an advocate for Oregon State in the Big 12.
Yes.
I wanted them in the Big 12 as much as anybody. I think they'd be an outstanding fit, but it didn't work out that way. The Big 12 angle's gone. You missed the boat on that one, and that's fine.
Yeah, the problem that I have is that you at some point you have to do what's right by your university. That's what Oregon State and Washington State are doing. I don't think there's any doubt about that. And, Jake, I guess the bigger question here is, what's the next right move? Like, and one of the things that I think people are talking about is, hey, is this scheduling alliance going to make it possible? Is there a good chance? And I don't even know how you would describe it, but do you feel like there's a good chance Oregon State can make the college football playoff?
I mean, good or bad, I think the chance is obviously going to be decided on the field. I mean, it goes without saying that your chance goes up when you're playing Mountain West competition versus Power 4 competition. But ultimately, I think, Oregon State, the biggest challenges, in my opinion, ahead of you are obviously going to be recruiting. A lot of people want to say that, hey, we're taking a step down and, recruits are going to see that. But if I was a recruit, I would be sitting here saying, hey, like, if Oregon State was on my list of schools that, I was considering going to, didn't the opportunity just get a little bit better? Am I not now saying, hey, I have the chance to play in actual huge playoff games now, as opposed to, yeah, we're going to be a team in the Pac-12 that, like this year, you're 8-2, you're once again playing decider of who's going to the conference championship game in the Pac-12. That's been the role you've been in. So if you're on that team right now, yeah, you're not really getting that national exposure. And so when I say that, Oregon State fans wanted to beat me over the head with, well, that's why we're all pissed off about game day going to James Madison instead of coming to Corvallis. And all I have to say to that is, that's why you should be happy about this scheduling alliance. Maybe your chances get better if you're, 10-0, 9-0. Maybe then you're the undefeated team that game day has no choice but to go and see. So that's why I say I don't think that your chances go down with this new situation. I believe your chances go up. And it really bothers me that, Oregon State fan is not appreciating this a little bit more. I mean, I understand that it's not a good situation. I understand you feel like, hey, you're a victim and you got left behind. But the reality of the situation is you gotta make the best of the situation, right? You got to take your lemons and make lemonade. And I think that's exactly what Kirk Schultz is. You're trying to put your school, you're trying to put your school in a position to continue to contend. And the last thing I would say too is that, if you're Scott Barnes at Oregon State, you don't have to deal with the budgetary issues that Kirk Schultz has to deal with. All you have to do is make sure that Jonathan Smith has everything that he needs to go out and recruit and keep the program fruitful and productive. And you're going to go out and win the Mountain West or whatever they're going to call this scheduling alliance, whatever the new branding is. You're going to go out and win that thing.
I think it gets worse if Jonathan Smith takes the Michigan job.
Absolutely.
That's when you start feeling bad. But if I'm Oregon State, I feel really good about this.
But that's why I say Scott Barnes has a responsibility to make sure Jonathan Smith doesn't take the Michigan job.
Yeah.
You got to, like, if I'm Scott Barnes, I've been having that conversation with Jonathan Smith. Hey, dude, I see everything that's going on with the Michigan situation. Obviously I'd love, I don't want to stop you from progressing in your career, but we're at a crucial point in this school's timeline right now, in this school's progression. And we're not going to be left in a good place if you go to Michigan, let's say, or A&M, let's say, or whatever the next opportunity would be. And so, yeah, I think if you're Scott Barnes, that's like the highest priority. You have to make sure your football program stays status quo and then climbs the ladder in this,
yes.
If we're going to call it it's not technically a conference, but in this new opportunity to get into the college football playoff.